And I'm back. It's been a while since I recorded something. As with a lot of other things that I've uploaded, it started out with a thought bubble that I ruminated on for a long time, and it worked its way into a bigger piece. By bigger, I mean like an A4 sheet of paper, really. However, it was pretty reduced. It's kind of a few things that I've been talking about with some people, not articulating myself perfectly, not really executing on why it was important. And I guess just take a step back from that, and it's been some time since I've mentioned this. I started out doing something like this to be an effective communicator, and I've made significant headway on that. I might be the only person listening, but I've gone back time and time again and gone over what I've written, what I've said, what I've recorded, the pace at which I talk at, the ums, the ahs, the stumbles, the short stops, recording things again and again. And I'd be fortunate to do this in one take. This is my first take. And being an effective communicator is a lot bigger than those few words. It's a way to get what you want out of life. And for me, my calling isn't necessarily what I want to get out of life. It's what I want to give to other people. And that helps guide me. It's a really important thing to me that people understand what I'm saying, because I'm really trying to have their best interests at heart. And their best interests, perhaps it's pretty presumptuous of me to assume what I think their best interests are, but nonetheless, you see a lot of patterns out there and a lot of duplications and missteps and misfortune, and witness and observe people dealing with things. And I really try to take a lot of that information in, not so I learn from it, so I can share it. And I'm thinking about, like how I can be helpful. And it's important to spend time on that for me privately, which is kind of what this is all about. Anyway, a lot's been happening. It's a new year, I suppose. The new year afterglow has dissipated for me right now. It was awesome at the time. It was something that I needed. Had a pretty eventful 2024. And people can say what they want about traditions, the 365 days in the calendar year, the 8,760 hours. But there's a certain pace to everything, and there's a certain time and a place to do things. And modern life has a way of getting in the way of, has a way of getting in the way of doing what's in alignment with you, and doing what's good for you, we're kind of in a pressure cooker, aren't we? Where we're all trying to do a lot in a short amount of time and contribute. Well, I am anyway. I guess there's a fair few people just milking the system. Let them milk. What a time to take stock of your strengths and choose what you want to do, even if it doesn't enhance other people's lifestyles. But that's not the trajectory I'm on, I suppose. So I wrote this piece with, it's called So Called. Might figure out what that means together. We'll see. It's about a dilemma I've faced for a long time. And it's not an easy decision to choose between what I see as two very important things. In one hand, we have telling the truth. And in the other hand, we have doing what is right. And as far as I can tell, they're not one and the same. And I don't want to go through the piece verbatim, but nonetheless, I'll give you a snapshot because there's other things I want to add to the discussion in terms of free form and going for it, ad hoc, talking about it. But with truth, I really find it difficult because it's my truth. I can tell you the truth, but it's really my truth. And you can tell me your truth. It's not the truth. And I just always found it really difficult to reconcile because it's from a lot of intellectual leaders, and I'm not well read on philosophy by any stretch of the imagination. Truth is great. It's important. Don't get me wrong. But for me, there's another overlapping substance, which is doing what is right. It's a real, it was a real fucking wild ride for me, dealing with that for, I think the first time I blurted it out was like 10 years ago. So I've been kind of sitting on this for a while, and at that point in time, many moons ago, I suppose, I saw it as lying, not telling the truth, because that's what I was led to believe as a child. You tell the truth, and if you're not telling the truth, it's lying. But like any childhood story, it's oversimplified. And as I got older, to that point in time, 10 years ago, when I tried to express it, I saw withholding the truth as lying. I thought, this is so uncomfortable. I want to tell the truth, but the person on the receiving end isn't going to hear it. And I knew at the time, because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear someone's judgment, essentially, their truth on my behavior or whatever it might be, my perspective. You need to hear this, it's the truth. Guiding people on how they need to change. and it's a real patience game. And I think the truth is a shortcut. Uh, it gets results. Don't get me wrong, and you might be wondering what I'm talking about. And I'm sure I could give you an example, but I kind of like keeping these things high level. Um, so if you tell someone the truth, it really cuts through a lot of shit pretty quickly, and there's a time and a place for that. But I don't know if that's all the time. Is it all the time? Should you tell the truth all the time? Is that how the world functions? I don't think so. And uh, being raised Catholic, not that I am, not that I want to get into that, but that guilt, I suppose, it was a very hard thing for me to deal with. That if I'm not telling the truth, I'm hiding something, and that's damaging to people because who's going to tell them the truth? Am I the last person in the chain of command that their parents have failed, their friends have failed, and we're having a conversation and their life's falling to pieces? Or alternatively, we're having a conversation and my life's turning to shit, essentially. And they think I need to hear this. And that's great when it's appropriate. But where do you draw the line? Telling the truth all the time is particularly irritating and uncomfortable and opens things up for discussion, but it's just from where I'm sitting, it's not how the world functions. And as I prefaced this with, it's your truth. So, and it was a big thing for me. Who am I to say this is what you should do? It's the truth. It seems like I'm really harboring this point, but it's quite a subtle thing that caused me a lot of grief for a long time. And I'm in the vacuum right now, talking this through with myself, essentially. So let's go to the other coin side. What's right? Kind of one and the same in a way. There's the light and the dark, and you've got to think about, I think, most of the time, what's actually right. And I guess now that I think about it, if you're doing what is right for you, it's all contained within you. It's the absence of what we were talking about, the absence of truth. So it's what you're not saying and not doing, and you're being patient, which goes against so much of what I was talking about before, this pressure cooker that we're all in. Telling the truth works well at scale in a high productivity society, but perhaps not so well over like hundreds, if not thousands of years. Doing what's right is a lot more complicated. It's an exercise that you internalize. It's not a reflex. And don't get me wrong, there's truth telling that isn't a reflex, that is well thought out and comes from a good place and is the truth. But it's far and few between, and people need to be prepared to listen to that when it's, let's say, a universal truth. So with doing what's right, it's the absence of a decision almost, because you need to internalize it. You could tell the truth. It could go your way, it could not, it could affect change, it may not. Is that person prepared to hear your words, your truth? Doing what's right requires a lot of systems working in conjunction. Your mind, your life experience, your gut, that that heart muscle, deducing over time what is actually building a compass. What's right, what's wrong. And it's almost impossible to maintain. It never will be perfect. There is no perfect person doing what is right all the time. And I need to hear those words just as much as anyone. There's no perfect person doing what is right all the time. It's unobtainable. True, like telling the truth, there's no one doing that all the time. But while we're on the subject of doing what is right, I think it's a patience game that may never come to fruition. However, in my experience, in the short little while that I've been alive, it works for me. And it's a bit easier now that I've sat with it for such a long period of time, this truth, doing what is right dilemma. It's easier not because it's easier. It's easier because I've made the choice to do what's right and not tell the truth. Because I don't have to choose anymore. I'm not in my head thinking, should I say this? Should I give the feedback they're yearning for? And sure, sometimes I do, and it's a bit of a fuck up, to be honest. But when I get closer to that unobtainable goal of doing what is right all the time, I suppose, it's amazing. I wish you could experience it if you haven't already. And maybe this whole conversation is completely irrelevant to you, but it's worth working out for me, because I just know what's worthwhile. Doing what is right, not saying my truth, being patient, listening, internalizing, not boxing my way out of a corner and reacting. I'm intentional with my actions, my response, my dedication to what I think is the higher calling, what is right. Completely dedicated to it in the moment. I keep thinking of this stupid, very cliche analogy of your wife asks you if she looks fat in these pants. I'm sorry for bringing it up, but it's just something that I haven't been able to avoid. And telling the truth, I think you can imagine where that'll get you. But what's the right thing to do in that conversation? What's the patient thing to do? Are you really listening to what they want? And what they want isn't what they're telling you. It's not the truth. It's safety. It's the safety that you create for them to be themselves. That's really what somebody in that situation, I think, would like. No judgment, no cutting through the grass, straight to the point, brutal honesty. You want to make them feel safe so they can make the best decision. And the best decision isn't realized in the moment. It's realized further down the road. The safety enables better decisions. Better decisions because of the support you've provided in the moment that will reverberate through them, through the people around them. And it's up to them. It's up to them. It's really about doing what's right for me, is about leaving it in their hands to think about the best course of action forward. I love sure, I can fantasize about the way things should go for all the people in my life. Everyone close to me. And I often do. And I fantasize about it in the moment when they want the truth and I choose to do what's right. I choose to absorb the negativity, feel my mind, counteract it with truth telling and instant gratification. And then I wait. And it turns in my mind. It has a gravity about it, but I know that's my mind. That's not integrity. That's not patience. That's not who I want to be. That's a reaction. It's not easy. Hence, I know it's worthwhile. And maybe I'll come back to that statement later on down the track. But if it's not easy, from where I'm sitting, it's normally worthwhile. Thanks.